Ever wish you had someone to tell you the truth about what it takes to run a successful business and live a fulfilling life? Well, amiguita, you've come to the right place. So grab your favorite cafecito or cocktail, your courage, and let's get to work. I'm Jenna Saborges, a therapist, business strategist, mindset coach for entrepreneurs, and a feisty Latina from Miami. And I'm determined to teach you the exact tools you need to stop settling and start kicking some serious derriere. What do you say? Are you in? Then let's get started. Welcome to Latinas Empowering Latinas podcast. I am super excited for today's episode because I found my business bestie. Her name is Jen, and she is in charge of an entire empire, not just at her house, but in her very own business. She runs an amazing company that designs glamorous, affordable websites for powerful entrepreneurs. And she has an entire team devoted to helping those entrepreneurs to continue to find visibility in their businesses without the stress. Because I'm all about delegating, and every single thing in my life, including this podcast episode that she has edited, is all Jen. I bring the brains, she does everything else. And let me tell you, it takes a lot of brains to deal with me. Jen is on with us now, and I am super excited because I wanted to talk to her about her mindset shifts going from employee to CEO. My first question for you, my beautiful friend, is when did you even decide that you wanted to open your own business?
First of all, thank you so much for having me on. I love the introduction. You're too kind. So when did I know that I wanted to start my own business? I've always had it in me. I feel like when you have that entrepreneur bug, that you're kind of born with that itch you got to scratch. Like you just got to build something, you got to do it. You're not satisfied in a way that other people are satisfied working with underneath another company. They want value in their work. They don't want just the paycheck. And for me, I've always felt that the value in my work, what was being done, how it was improving lives was more important to me than money. Now, don't get me wrong. I love me some money, but there was never a time where I woke up and thought, I'm going to start a business. It was always in me to start one. Now, did that mean I knew how to or was even capable? No. So to get to where I knew I wanted to do something and where I was actually implementing it successfully, sustainably, and in a way that made sense to people was a super long journey, as you know.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is why Jen is my business bestie, because as she was describing the bug and the itch she had to scratch, I was getting goosebumps. Yes, I was. I love the intro, but you know me, I want to dive deep. I want to tap into when you were working for somebody else, because I know we feel the same. All entrepreneurs feel the same. What was that feeling like before you even opened up your business?
Well, it was kind of hard to describe because I didn't know the words yet to describe it. But looking back, it was when I was working for somebody else, I knew that something was off in management. There was like a disconnect. They don't look at people's strengths. And again, that goes back to I probably wasn't really built to be an employee, but
I'm going to stop you. I love what you just said, my friend. You said I wasn't made to be an employee. And I think that goes back to that bug and that itch that you're talking about.
I know, but that sounds like I was a terrible employee and I wasn't.
No, listen, I know that every single person listening to this, number one, can identify with feeling undervalued, unappreciated, and that their superiors don't know what they're doing, number one. And number two, if they are entrepreneurs, can completely relate to the feeling of you saying, I didn't feel like I was made to be an employee. And the reality is that's why entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs, because they weren't meant to follow orders. They weren't meant to do things for somebody else. They don't want to invest in other people's dreams and making them a reality. They want to make their dreams a reality their way. So when you feel guilt over saying, it makes me sound bad because like I'm not a good employee. No, I think that makes you sound honest. And that's where that itch of wanting more for you and for the people you're serving to come through.
Hey, that sounds good to me, Jen.
Okay. So horrible system. What made you, was there, I know you said you always felt like you had the fabric of becoming your own business owner. Was there like a shifting point where you said, like, that's it, I'm going to do it? Like, when did that happen? Where in your life did you say, okay, I'm still going to work my job. I have to work my job, but I'm going to give this entrepreneur thing, I'm going to take a crack at it. When did that happen?
Well, so I kind of started freelancing as kind of like a side hustle to my 9 to 5 job. I realized that really was where my mind was at, but I didn't push myself to really take the risk and form my own business till I had my first child and decided that I didn't want to go back to my 9 to 5 job where I would be both away from my newest passion, my growing family, and my newest passion, what I was freelancing in, which at the time was graphic design and web design. So it just wasn't worth it to me. Too many things were building up to go back. So I said, I talked to my husband. I said, "This is it. I'm going to freelance for it with it for a while." I didn't say I was starting a business. I said I was going to freelance and concentrate on this new phase of life that I was in. So when I really realized that like I was starting a business was when I started building up clients and word of mouth, and I realized I couldn't handle everything on my own. And I think this is where we're really going to get into it. Was I was no longer happy in, working in my passion that I would like loved because I was so overwhelmed by low pay. Because at the time I was just taking any client. I was saying yes to everyone. And I had built up this, instead of building up a business, I built up all these like, imagine just like the biggest pile of mess mound of just clients and accounting and stuff around me that like I didn't want to deal with because I hadn't set it up correctly from the beginning. So I was unhappy. I realized that I needed help. I didn't want to hire somebody else. One, because I didn't have the budget to hire employees, but at the same time, I couldn't afford not to. So one day it was sort of like I just woke up and I all of a sudden put out the word that I was hiring for additional graphic designers, web designers. I didn't, again, I cannot emphasize enough like how I did not have the money or resources to do this, but I knew I had to change. So I forced myself into it. So I hired a couple people to help me get organized and start taking off some clients and taking on some of the clients that I had built up. And I realized that in doing that, it did this amazing shift to where I was paying them to take clients. So then I had more time to get higher paying clients, to give them better quality service. And that brought in the money that I needed to pay the employees in the first place. So it was almost this beautiful, I hate to throw out the word, but manifested change. Like I just put it out in the world that I needed the help. I took the risk. I sorted out what I needed to sort out, and things fell in line because I was doing it properly for the first time since I had quote unquote started like my business.
So there are
Yeah.
two things that you brought up that I want to touch. The first thing, and you said it, I'm going to start quoting you. You said, I couldn't afford not to. I couldn't afford not to hire people. The fact that you knew that you couldn't afford not to and that you took the risk, and my favorite line is starting before you're ready, that's exactly what you just did. You said, I'm doing this. I woke up. I need to do this. I'm putting it out. I'm putting it onto the universe, manifesting, willing it, working on it, pushing it, whatever you want to call it. You made it happen. But I want everybody listening to this episode to understand, whether it's in your business or it's in your life or in your relationship or in your family or in your friendships, this is what sets you apart. What Jen did, her clarity, her fierceness to jump in, that is what makes her successful. That is what causes people to grow emotionally and physically. And that lets you know that you have the power within you. You're not helpless, right? Jen could have said, I can't do this. It's too much. I'm too overwhelmed. I have too many piles. This is more than I thought. She didn't say it. She maybe felt it. She maybe said it for a second, but then right after that, she said, nope, I can't afford not to hire people. I'm hiring them and I'm going to put it out into the universe and I'm letting everybody know this is what I'm offering. And it's not that it came to her. Jen, you worked your ass off for that. And people don't own that enough. You don't have two businesses and you're done. Can you tell everybody from the moment you decided to side hustle to when you opened and then you went full time, what was the time frame from that?
Oh, goodness. It was, a couple years span of what you said, like working really hard. I think you reminded me of that movie. I think it's The Martian. Matt Damon gets left on Mars, and at the end, he's teaching students, and he says, eventually everything falls to shit. And you can either panic or you can identify the problem and you can get to work. And that is what it is to shift from employee to business owner, side hustler, whatever you want, to full on CEO owner. You identify the problem, you get to work, you fix it, you fill in the gap, and then you move on to identifying your next problem and getting to work. It's just constant over and over. And the amount of work it takes is astronomical. But when you break it down into identifying the knots, fixing the knots, then moving on to the next one is, it gives you a pretty simplistic strategy.
Once you have it all broken down, but it doesn't feel that way in the beginning, right? So you pointed out something else I wanted to bring up. You said side hustle to I'm doing this to all in. I will say that as soon as you started talking about having that bug and that itch that is entrepreneurship. And something else that I will say is some people want to be their own boss, but not everybody has what it takes to be their own boss. So I'm going to clarify by saying that there's definitely a learning curve, right? How to do things, how to figure it out. But again, the difference between those that succeed and those that don't are the ones that put in the work, the ones that push past failure and frustration, and the ones that are there at the end of the day after being consistent. I'm going to use that to transition from being an entrepreneur, figuring it out, but then actually shifting the mindset, which not everybody's able to do either. Shifting from I'm an employee to I'm a boss, and not just my own boss, but I'm in charge of others. And I don't have to answer to anybody, and that comes with responsibility. But even with, and I know we've worked on this, even within your business, there has to come a point where the people, because whether somebody is providing a service or selling a product and you are your own boss, to some degree, you're still underneath or you rely on the interaction with your customer, right? Whether it's a car, a dealership, or whether it's anything, absolutely anything depends on the interaction. Now, how that interaction goes is all dependent on your confidence and your mindset and how you address it. I know, and I want you to kind of share the before and after. And again, we can, adjust as needed. But I want to go through the emotional piece and the actual mental piece of realizing that even though you were your own boss with your own company, you were still functioning in the mindset of being an employee to the people who were hiring you instead of being the boss, the CEO. I want you to talk to me a little bit about that.
Oh man, Jen.
I know, but this is the good stuff. This is what people want to hear and talk about because they can relate.
Yeah, that was the hardest thing for me for a couple of reasons. I found myself actually going back, realizing that I had some sympathy for my old managers because I found myself in a power position, not knowing how to be in that power position. And just a side note, again, you have to get to work and do the research and figure out how to be that person. But even further in there, like I was, emotionally tied to my work, and I'm passionate about really good web design, graphic design, email marketing, and it was hard for me to not do everything myself. I still fight with myself in my head when a client says, "Hey, I need an email for blah blah blah. I need a landing page created." Da da da. Like I always in my head think, okay, great, I can do it A, B, and C, and I can do it this time, and I can do it this well. And I have to stop and be like, no, wait, what I need to be doing is telling my team what the project is and giving them the solutions and the resources and the tools to get it done themselves. So I was jammed at me in a time where I was once again, I had a team, I had employees, I had a business, I had clients, and I was still overloading myself with tasks. My customer service was terrible because I was so overwhelmed and trying to do everything myself. And she helped me kind of open my eyes to the problems that I was creating for myself. I had set up everything that I needed to not be living a life that was so convoluted. If I would just take a minute to delegate, Jan loves the word delegate. If I would just take the time instead of trying to always put out fires for clients and people and doing everything myself, if I would just take the time to delegate, to figure out what other people could do for me, to see, to really, really think about what I actually had to do myself. And I realized because that's not my job anymore. My job wasn't to be the savior of the people who needed to launch their business in 30 days. My job was to be the savior of my own company. I had a responsibility to make sure that my company was going to succeed and going to grow and that the paychecks were going to continue to go out. That was my new job. And I didn't realize that I had changed jobs because it's not like you submit a resume for this kind of thing and I'll like get hired and go through an interview process. It's nothing like that. You have to do the mind shift change.
I actually love where you went. So the therapist is going to break this down for a second. So you went from miserable employee, to entrepreneur, to partners with your team, to, oh my God, hold on, I'm in charge of this team and I need to let them know what I need. What happens, and whether you're a solopreneur or you have a team, the mindset shift needs to happen because as an employee, you're trained. So the psychology will kick in. Pavlov, look up Pavlov. And it's this whole sense of we are ingrained to produce certain results. So as an employee, we are trained to do our jobs to get paid. As an entrepreneur, we're trying to follow our passions in order to be successful. But even as a solopreneur, you have to understand that you cannot wait for other people to tell you what to do. You cannot wait to see what's going to drop down from the sky to tell you how to run your business. You have to do the footwork. You have to make it happen. So whether it's I need a team and I can't afford not to get a team, or I need to shift the way I'm doing things because if I'm not letting go, right? If you didn't delegate, and here again, within comfort level, and we can always go back to this, and edit out if you want. But I really feel that when I met you, you were so prideful, right? Because you went in with such passion, and the women you were working with side by side were moms, which you have a space for because you're a mom and they're your friends. But I think what was happening is you were treating them all as almost like business partners. And the reality is, however nice and wonderful and amazing they are, because they all are, they were still your employees and they were still waiting for you to tell them what to do. And that is the difference between an employer and an entrepreneur. That's the difference between a CEO and an employee. And I think once you saw the difference, and I felt the difference in the way you're running your business, it is night and day. And from what you've shared, not only are you feeling more confident and fluid and successful, and you said you have more time and more energy, and not that it's perfected, but it's definitely better. But it sounds like your team is also feeling better too.
This is very idealistic, but I thought that I would go in and give these people the freedom to work how they wanted, to work where they wanted, and to work when they wanted. And I thought that it would be the most glorious thing for them. And as long as they could get their work done in between so and so dates, like everybody would be happy. And it was quite naive in a way, because what actually happened was the women got so little support when I thought I was giving them freedom. But they got so little support that they didn't know how to actually do their jobs, and things fell apart right away pretty quickly. Things were inefficient. We did develop no standard operating procedures. They didn't know how to get information that they needed from me in order to help a client. It was just, things fell apart. Again, reading. If you're not reading books, then or listening to audiobooks or educating yourself on all of this stuff, then you're definitely not doing it right. But so I was reading and learning and figuring out how to do these things, and talking to Jan, and realized that I wasn't giving them freedom. I was not supporting them at all. And so I had to go back and evaluate how to put systems in place where they knew what was coming up for the entire month, what they needed to do for the entire month, what they needed to do each week, when they needed to accomplish it, what the venues of communication were in order to get help. So we really went back and evaluated all that.
I have to applaud you for even looking at that, because not everybody's able to digest that and admit, okay, I'm not doing this the best way. There is another way. I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to implement it. So part of being a successful entrepreneur is, number one, listening to yourself, listening to your team, and knowing that there's other options. And I really want to say that I think you've done a phenomenal job. So you will hear me talking about Jen over and over again. She is literally my right hand. I tell everybody I could not run my business without her. Everybody thinks there's some kind of catch because I talk about her so much, but I literally could not do what I do without her. And more than that, I've told her before, she is my business soulmate. Like, I cannot imagine. I had such a hard time connecting with somebody that I felt was as passionate and in line with what I wanted for my business until I met Jen. And I wanted to share with all of you, whether it's delegating an area that's not your specialty, whether it's working with a mindset coach or a business coach or a strategy coach on what it is that you need for your business. You need to invest in yourself and your business in order for both of you to grow. So I will put down in my show notes, we're going to put down the access to both Jennifer's amazing opportunity to work with her on designing your website or tweaking it up if you need a remodel and starting from scratch, and her amazing team that does everything that I always need help with. She has been a light at the end of my entrepreneurial journey. And I told her that she has a client for life, because I could not imagine doing what I'm doing without having her by my side, because we are so in sync. So I'm actually going to touch base on this on our upcoming podcast episode, where it's all about making sure that you are having good sex in your business, and that if you don't business. Jen, thank you so very much for joining me. And I am so excited, and I am so very proud of you. And I have been honored to walk with you on this journey. And I'm so grateful for you and your team.
You got it.
All right. Bye, Jen. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited you tuned in. The best way to find out the second a new episode is released and receive all the valuable tools and actionable steps I share is to subscribe to the podcast, so make sure you do that. Sending you so much love until next time. Bye.